Hello everybody, it's Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at some setups on a slightly longer term 15-minute and 60-minute chart of the YM. But first, let's start with our risk disclaimer, and as usual, remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, but more importantly accept that losses can and will and do unfold. It doesn't matter what trading approach you take, there always will be losing trades. Right, this is a 15-minute chart of the YM using the 24-hour session. These are our add-ons for NinjaTrader 8, but the same applies whether you're using our standalone version or whether you're using our TradingView scripts. If I pull our TradingView scripts in, you can see that they are here. The setups we'll be looking at is our W3 or Wave 3 trade setup here, and also there's a VS sell that's just coming in here. So let's go back to our NinjaTrader 8 add-ons. For you guys who are new to MTPredictor, we're not a black box system. I always have to stress that because we know and understand that markets are basically random just over 50% of the time. So half the time you can't get any discernible larger degree trend, therefore the smaller patterns are meaningless. This is a concept that is missed by many amateur traders. They try to understand where markets are going all the time, and that's why they get into a bit of a muddle. So first of all, you have to accept that half the time markets are random and you can't get any real gauge on where the markets are going. So the question arises then, how do we decide when the market pattern is clear? In other words, when it's in the clear 50%. For that, we use a multi-time frame approach. So if you're trading on the 15-minute chart, which is what we're looking at here for these setups, you go to a higher time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So the next logical time frame up would be the 60-minute. If you say trading on daily stocks, you'd go up to the weekly. If you're say trading on 4-hourly Forex, you'd probably go up to the daily. So you're looking for a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. I'm just going to put a little bit of white space on the right hand side just so I've got something to hide the chart a bit. So what we do is I'm just dragging the chart back in time a bit, and to show you what we do is that we actually look for our decision point levels. These are areas we place on our chart in advance. If I go back to here, you can see we had a pivot low here. We teach you which pivots to take. We don't take all of them, we take specific ones. So if I right mouse click here, I do decision point. Can you see how it gives you areas on the chart? Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Just drag it across. It gives you areas on the chart in advance of where there's likely to be support or resistance. Obviously support in this case is the market's coming down. As the name suggests in the first one, this is the typical area where markets are typically going to reverse, and this is the maximum area. We normally use the typical, but in this particular case, you can see how the market came down. It came down, it went through the typical area, and then started to reverse at the maximum. So I'm just going to take that one off so it doesn't confuse things. But can you see how we had a projected area on our chart in advance? We then look to see what the market is doing at that projected area. And if the market reverses at our projected area, we then assume that the market is then in a clear pattern. In other words, it's doing what we anticipate. So that's in the clear 50% of the time. So what do we then gauge with this? Well, this then determines that because the support comes in, we're now looking for the market to go up, and therefore we'd be looking for buy setups. So now if we come down to our 15-minute chart, go back in time a bit, this is what it looked like. You can see there's our support, comes in nicely there. Our MTP trend went from red to indicate a downtrend, to black to indicating in the process of reversal, to blue to indicating a market trend is now up. So as the market trend is now up, we'll be avoiding sell setups and we'll be looking for potential buy setups. So this is why when this W3 or Wave 3 trade setup came in, it was a good one to consider. Now we like Wave 3 trade setups, and there are other videos on the website that describes the W3 or Wave 3 trade setup in more detail. It's basically where the market is making a Wave 2 correction in Elliott wave terms. So this will be the start of the sequence at the higher time frame support. The initial rally here will be Wave 1. We then have an ABC correction down to Wave 2. Just going to place the analysis on. Now that would have been done at the time as that blue bar comes in. We use correct position sizing to keep our initial risk small under control. In this case, less than a 2% on a $20,000 account, but you can obviously do slightly smaller accounts if you wish, and that's then it calculates the position size for you as well. But I'll leave that at 2% on a $20,000 account. So that gives you the number of contracts to go long. Also gives you the stop trigger, and as you can see up there, it also gives you the level at which to set your profit target. We like these because we're anticipating that this is going to be a wave 3 swing. So wave 3s are normally typically the strongest and longest in a completed 5-wave sequence, and therefore have the potential to have a large potential profit in relation to the initial risk. As you can see here, if the market gets up here, the potential profit is 6.8, or can we say almost 7? 6.8, we'll call it 6.5, so it's not quite so big. Just over 6.5 times the initial risk. So you're taking into a long trade here, the market starts to rally up. It starts to rally up. We're not looking for these targets. Remember, we're going to the typical wave 3 WPT. It almost gets there, retraces back a bit again, goes sideways for quite a while, and then suddenly you see it's now come up to that level where the profit target was reached. I'll just take that white space off there so we have a little bit more chart to work with, and there you can see the whole trade. So it came into our initial support zone. The initial rally up will be wave 1. We then have an ABC correction to wave 2. This is where our W3 or wave 3 trade setup came in. The market then rallied, albeit fairly choppy period there, but rallied up and has just reached the profit target here. So as you can see, this is what we look to do with MTPredictor. We're looking to see where the market picture is clear, and then look to trade setups on the shorter time frame. So that was one good trade setup into that level. You wouldn't be looking for the smaller trades here. You wouldn't be looking for these sell setups. You really wouldn't be looking for this VS buy setup because it wasn't at a major reversal, but this one was. So that then held all the way up into the long there. Again, you wouldn't be looking to add positions on smaller little wiggles like that because you're already in a long position. So let's now see on that particular setup. So I'll clear everything off. I'll go back to the higher time frame, which is the 60-minute. I'll just clear everything off. I'll go back to this position here. This is the last swing into that low. So this would be the pivot to take our DP off. So we take our decision point off there. I'm just going to use the typical here because, as the name suggests, this is typically where the markets will reverse. If I zoom in a bit, can you see what's just happened? The market has indeed rallied up to that level, and that's where it's found a potential resistance. For you guys who are good at Elliott wave as well, you'll notice that it looks like there's a 5-wave sequence up here as well. Remember, that was our last DP support zone? So it looks like there's a 5-wave sequence, and indeed if I right mouse click over this pivot and I do Elliott wave intermediate, you can see that's indeed what's happened. It rallied up there in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with this high at the maximum wave 5 WPT. So on the higher time frame, you can see there's two potential areas that look like this is indicating a potential high. So if we now come down to the shorter time frame, so we're doing exactly the same approach as we did on the previous setup, and we zoom in a bit, can you see how now we had a potential VS sell with our MTP trend going from blue to black? So black indicates a potential reversal. So we had a VS sell at our higher time frame resistance. So in other words, at this particular point in time, the market trend again is in a clear pattern. So let's right mouse click over this red sell bar, do analyze trade setup, and this has now given us a potential short trade. This is where the market is at the moment. So obviously this is a mid trade, but again position sizing takes account of the number of lots, contracts or shares to keep your initial risk again under 2% of a sample $20,000 account. So this then took you into a short trade here. Our target is down here at the first DP zone, the typical DP support zone, where if the market gets there, obviously this is real-time data here, so it hasn't got there, but if it gets there, the potential profit would be just over 4 times the initial risk. If it stops you out, the loss would be 1R or 1 risk unit. So that's what we're looking to do with MTPredictor. We're not looking to trade all the time because we know a 100% system doesn't work because markets are random just over half the time. We're looking to see when the market comes into larger or higher time frame support and resistance zones. I'll go back and put that one on just so we can remember that one. when we had the support zone coming in down there. Remember that? So we're looking to see when the market makes potential reversals at our higher time frame support and resistance zones, as it did here. So higher time frame support, the market makes a reversal at that level. Market picture is then deemed to be clear. We then get a trade set up in the new trend direction, like this. It's then confirmed by our MTP trend color. That gives us a potential trade setup. We're looking for trades that are large in relation to the initial risk. And as you can see here, when the market got up there, the profit was just over 6.5 times the initial risk. We then had exactly the opposite coming in at this high here, where there was our higher time frame resistance, and now here's our shorter time frame sell for a potential trade setup down into this area for a potential 4.2 hour profit. So hopefully this has been a good example of MTPredictor in action. Again, this is our add-ons for NinjaTrader 8. We have exactly the same trade setups in our standalone version and also in our TradingView scripts. As you can see, there's our W3 or Wave 3 trade setup. If I just hide that one, you can see there it is. Exactly the same as we had in our NinjaTrader add-ons. And there's our VS sell coming in there as well. So whether you're using TradingView, or whether you're using our standalone version or our NinjaTrader 8 add-ons, we have the same trade setups and analysis in all three of them. So hopefully this has been a good example, or a good couple of examples of what to look for and to show MTPredictor in action on 15-minute and 60-minute charts of the YM.